Hello, it's story time. The story I'm about to tell you today is based on true life events as told by the person who experienced it. But before we get into today's story, if this is your first time of coming across this channel, most likely it's going to be your first time because this is like my debut storytelling video. Please click on the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so each time I post contents like this, you'll be among the first to get them. That said, let's get into today's story. On the 8th of December 2020, Oluwafemi woke up with a strong desire to visit his sister Ayomide, who is a student at the University of Ibadan. However, fast forward to about 5 hours later, Oluwafemi would find himself running at an untarred road, almost naked. The following are a series of events that led Oluwafemi to this point. Oluwafemi is a graduate of Obafemi Awolowo University. He's a business and operation analyst as well as a graphics designer. Having acquired this more skill coupled with the level of education he has attained, Oluwafemi was very much optimistic for the future. So that morning, he decided to act on his desire to visit his sister, where she was working at Joke Plaza. Before embarking on the journey, Oluwafemi was unable to inform anyone because his cell phone was switched off due to power outage. And considering the time of the year, Oluwafemi hoped he would take a bike to his destination, believing that it would be a rush hour day. But on getting to where he was supposed to get a bike, he discovered that the day didn't really have the rush hour element of the season. So, frustrated, Oluwafemi just decided, fine, I'll settle for a cab. It wasn't long before a micro cab came by. Oluwafemi got into the cab and at the back seat was a woman, a passenger who he obviously didn't know. Shortly after, another passenger joined them and the cab was at its maximum. So officially they began their journey to Bodija. At first, the journey seemed like just any other journey. It was going on fine until they got to the General Gas Bridge. Now, it is not uncommon for passengers to sleep off when traveling, probably because of stress or exhaustion from the previous day travel preparations. But in this case, all passengers on board slept off. The driver was unbothered and just kept driving, only that he wouldn't be driving them to their right destination. Oluwafemi would eventually wake up to find himself tied up, which made him really confused because moments ago he was inside a car where he just fell asleep. Now he was lying inside a hut with his clothes removed. He was just putting on his singlets and his shorts. So Oluwafemi looked around to become more aware of his environment. When he looked around, he saw that there were other people inside the hut, and on closer inspection, he discovered that they were actually the passengers who were with him inside the cab. So he tried to measure up his strength against the rope and was glad to find out that it wasn't really tight. So after a little struggle, he was able to untie himself and made his way to where the other passengers were. On getting to where the other passengers were, he was struck with terror and staggered backward. He became frigid and was unable to move. The other passengers had already been killed. At that point, he realized that there were other body parts scattered all over the hut. He was so scared he could not move, but knew that he had to do all within his power to get out of the hut. Despite the fact that his kidnappers were nowhere to be seen, he knew that they would eventually come back. Having that in mind, he tried to escape without attracting any attention. On getting to the entrance of the hut, he could hear some voices coming from the back of the hut. It turned out to be that those voices he was hearing were the voice of the kidnappers along with one other voice that was in disagreement with the kidnappers. The voice of the person in question was the voice of the native doctor, or Babalawo as they are usually called, who was supposed to kill Oluwafemi just as he did to the other passengers and prepare him for ritual, a practice that a lot of people unfortunately fall victim to at that time of the year in Nigeria. They were all talking in Yoruba, a language native to West Africa, especially Western Nigeria. Oluwafemi is from Yoruba and was able to understand what they were saying. And from the conversation, it was very obvious that the native daughter wanted to have nothing to do with Oluwafemi. He pleaded with the kidnappers to return Oluwafemi to wherever they brought him from, stating that if they do not do so, all that they are worked for would be in vain. The kidnappers at first did not want to return Oluwafemi and told the native daughter Oluwafemi was the perfect match, that in fact the other passengers were all victims of circumstance. But the native daughter refused and asked them to return him, stating that if they do not return him, it will be difficult for him to put Oluwafemi back to sleep once he was awake. Unknowingly to them, Oluwafemi was already awake. At that point, the kidnappers had no other choice than to make plans on how to discard Oluwafemi. Oluwafemi really did not know what they had in mind, if they would just return him to where they brought him from or they were going to kill him. So Oluwafemi knew that if he stood any chance of surviving that ordeal, he had to escape. So Oluwafemi saw a window of opportunity which he took. Looking outside the hut, he saw a bush path which he could make a run for. So without thinking twice, he just took to his heels and made it out of the hut and ran towards the bush path. The kidnappers were at the back of the hut, so they were unable to see Oluwafemi when he was escaping. Unfortunately for him, it didn't make much sound to draw their attention. Oluwafemi is a devout Christian and a member of God's Love Tabernacle International. When he was running, he just kept on praying. He didn't know where he was running to, he didn't know where he was, but one thing he knew for sure was that he just had to keep running. He did not have to stop because it could be that his kidnappers were after him. So he just kept running until he got to an untarred road. When he got to the untarred road, he slowed down a bit to see if any vehicle would be coming along. But after some time, without seeing any vehicle, he knew that he had to keep running because his kidnappers might well catch up with him. So he just kept on running. After a while, he got to a tarred road where he saw an old man riding a rickety jalopy bike. He stopped the man and narrated his ordeal to the man. Then the man, shocked at what he was hearing, asked him, "Do you know exactly where you are?" Oluwafemi responded no, and it was at that point the man told him that he was in an entirely different state. Oluwafemi was in Oyo State and was visiting his sister in a town in Oyo State. But the driver drove them 64 miles away from his right destination to Ogun State, away from Oyo State where he was before. So the old man volunteered to take him to a park where he would get a vehicle going back to Ibadan. At that point, he was still putting on just his shorts and his singlet, but he didn't mind. All what he wanted was to be safe, to go back home where he came from. So the old man took him to the park and paid for his transportation fee. The old man also ensured that the bus would move before he left the park. Unfortunately, Oluwafemi did not get the man's mobile number, so till this day, Oluwafemi has not heard from the man. This nightmare of an event would last for 6 hours, but in the end, he got home safe and sound. The event took place on the 8th of December 2020, but he was only able to share his story on his social media platform on the 18th of May 2022. That is a year and 6 months after the event. Why it took that long was because of the trauma he suffered from the ordeal. He is still very much optimistic for the future, and I'm glad he didn't fall victim to such wicked acts. I hope this video can help raise awareness about the atrocities that unsuspecting Nigerians fall victim to, and that the perpetrators of such atrocities be given the punishment that they deserve for their crime, because not everyone can be as fortunate as Oluwafemi. The question of how Oluwafemi managed to survive despite the fact that the other passengers that were with him inside the cab did not still borders on the mind of many Nigerians today. Is it just fortunate or is it special? Well, I will leave you to ponder over that. If you like this video, please do well to click on the subscribe button and give the like button a thumbs up. But if you didn't, you can as well click on the dislike button twice just to be sure. Thanks for watching.